Hi, everyone. This is Heather Vickery, and you've tuned in to the Brave Files podcast. I'm so excited to have you here with us today. In just a few days, you have an incredible opportunity to participate in something that many people have called life-changing and even transformative. That's right, I'm hosting the Brave Method Workshop again. This is the workshop where I break down my patented coaching platform, the Brave Method. The event starts on March 16th, and you don't want to miss it. You can join us to get started unlocking a bigger, bolder, more fulfilling life. Yeah, you can run a business that has a positive impact on yourself and the lives of others. And yes, you can do hard things. In fact, you do them all the time. But guess what? You don't have to do them alone. Register today and experience this truly unique, hands-on, interactive, community-building, life-giving workshop with me and a whole bunch of other people who are ready to finally get unstuck and build the life of their dreams. In this workshop, you will have an opportunity to identify areas that you're stuck, embrace your fears, and finally begin to make the brave leap. Oh, and did I mention that it's completely free? It's free, but you have to register to join us. So visit vickeryandco.com/workshop to save your spot right now. Most of you know that I'm a big fan of learning. I love to read, listen to podcasts, take workshops and courses. Continuing education is really, really important to me. And I almost always find something really wonderful as a takeaway, but rarely am I so moved by a piece of work that I find myself dreaming about it. And that's how I felt when I read Holy Heathen, the memoir of today's guest, Katherine North. Katherine doesn't believe in being fearless. She and I are aligned in that way. In fact, she's scared every day. She's scared of professional phone calls, of being vulnerable, even of little things like bugs, despite the fact that she lives on a farm. So when she decided to write a memoir, Katherine was naturally terrified. But rather than let fear keep her from telling her story, Katherine stepped into her brave and wrote a raw and real memoir about her extraordinary life as a third culture kid raised in Japan with missionary parents. Oh, and not feeling aligned with her parents' religion. Now she's here to encourage you to do the hard thing that you've always dreamed of doing because it's worth it, and you're worth it. Katherine and I have a really great conversation. We talk about her book, we talk about her life, her coaching, her amazing, beautiful, wonderful family. We even talk about our shared love of baby chicks because we now both have them. Y'all stick with us. This is a really incredibly fun conversation, and I cannot wait to share it with you.
Mystic, scared, stubborn.
This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show. Hey everyone, this is Heather Vickery. Welcome to the Brave Files. Okay, I get accused on occasion of being a fangirl when I do podcast interviews for some folks. And I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know right now that that's going to happen. You should expect that from me right now, and I make no apologies for it at all. Today's guest is a woman named Katherine North, and Katherine is the author of a book called Holy Heathen, a spiritual memoir. It's a story of her metamorphosis from scared missionary girl growing up in Japan to thriving heathen mystic who helps women around the world flourish. And it's one of the most beautifully written books I have ever encountered. And I read a lot. Katherine says, that she has "Tell Me Your Secrets" tattooed on her forehead in invisible ink. She's a queer feminist, a mother of 5, and she and her husband made this really beautiful award-winning documentary called Just Another Beautiful Family. We will link to it in the show notes. You are going to want to watch it. Have tissues. And they did this crazy thing and moved to this really small island off the coast of Canada. I can't wait to talk with her about that. She swears a lot, but cries at diaper commercials. So clearly she's my spiritual twin. And y'all, like, I'm so excited. I could literally pee my pants. Katherine, welcome to the Brave Files.
I'm so happy to be here. Yay.
Oh my gosh. My heart was like racing leading up to it because I just finished your book and I was so outrageously moved. I mean, your story is incredible and it's worthy of reading, but girl, you can write.
Well, thank you. Thank
It's
you.
really, really, really beautiful. Now, this is kind of a funny, convoluted story. I first was introduced to you because I interviewed your husband, Nick, on the show. The episode is called Becoming Dad. We're going to link to it. It's also amazing. And something very cool that happened, I don't think that you know this yet. One of my lifelong dear friends said, "Oh my gosh, this interview with Nick North, I've never heard of him before, but I get Katherine's email and she's amazing and I'm so excited to listen."
Way.
So, I know, right?
I love that.
What a fun, small world. And so, Jennifer, if you're listening, shout out to that awesome introduction.
Hey.
I know, right? So when I got your book, which, full disclosure, I grabbed just out of support. I think your family is awesome and I know your husband. And I was like, let me just support this author.
I appreciate that. I'll take it.
Right? We'll take it anywhere we can get it. I was not prepared. I did not read the description. And I fully expected it to talk about your life as it is now, which is not the case. So hopefully there's a second book coming. Hopefully. And so I would love to know, I mean, there's just so much. We're going to start off with, will you share why you decided to end the book where you did, given the fact that you have kind of a public family at this point?
Yeah. You know, I started writing this book before Nick and I fell in love, actually before we even met. I have been working on this book for about 10 years. You know, you sometimes have a creative project that is like clawing its way out of you and it's torturing you and you're not like, oh, I'd love to write a book. You're like, oh my God, this book is killing me from the inside slowly. This book was that. And so actually I had a completed manuscript done when Nick and I fell in love. And so he was one of the very first people to read the full manuscript.
Oh, wow. But so that's been a lot of years. So what took you so long, my love?
Well, it means a lot to me when you tell me. Well, I appreciate you saying that I can write because I have always wanted to be a writer. I have always been a writer. I've been writing these weekly love letters to this amazing community of people for like 10 years. No longer, actually. And I really believed in this book. I had people who believed in it. I hired the best to help me with it. And I could not get an agent for the love of anything.
They're sorry. They're so sorry.
Yeah, you know, and so for a long time, because it's such a personal story, it's such a raw story, it's a story that is still painful for people in my family. Although I have been so lucky to have their support, I felt like I didn't want to self-publish it because it felt gratuitous. You know, if I had gotten a big fancy New York publishing deal, it would have been like, sorry, mom and dad, but, you know, fame and fortune are calling. I have to go, right? That felt like one thing. But to just be like, I'm going to pay myself to have this story sent out into the world felt mean. And it didn't feel necessary. Except that then I realized that it actually was necessary. Yeah.
You know, it's so fascinating that you say that to me because I know if a client, because I coach different kinds of coaches, but similar vibe, right? If a client came to me, and I imagine if a client came to you and said that, you would help them work through all the ways that couldn't possibly be gratuitous. And it was so important. But it's hard to coach yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really
get
had
that.
to grieve. I had this dream. I was going to be, Glennon Doyle or Liz Gilbert. It's so embarrassing to say this, but this is the Brave file. So I'll say this squirmy, embarrassing thing, right? I had this dream of this like big fancy publishing deal that was going to save me and make me, and then I would finally feel like a real light writer. And that didn't happen. And so I had to kind of grieve that dream, I think. And I had to really wrestle with like, okay, if nobody else in the world wants to read this book, do I still believe in it anyway? And it took me a while to come to, yes, I did get there, but it took a while.
I can totally appreciate that. And I honor that process. And I imagine it was very cathartic and therapeutic for you to get this out, because it is very raw and very personal. Mm-hmm. How, now that it's out, what kind of reception have you gotten for it? How has your family received it? What's the scoop?
My family has been amazing. And of course, I showed it to them before, like I showed them the manuscript before it went to press. And I asked them for their feedback, and I asked them if they would like to weigh in. And it was awkward. It was squirmy. It was uncomfortable. It was painful. But it was worth it. And there were a few places where they were like, well, there was like a bunch of details that I just had flat out wrong, which so I appreciated those, corrections. And then there were places that were kind of tender to talk about and like, oh, I remember this moment differently, or I wish that hadn't gone that way. I mean, it was kind of awful. Like I'm squirming in my chair as I remember like how it's just like squirmy is the word, like cringy, like, oh my God, it's so uncomfortable, right?
It's hard, but you do a really lovely job of addressing that in the beginning of the book, of addressing that these are your memories as you recall them, and you're not telling anybody else's story, and that I think you very clearly describe, one particular scenario where you see it one way and your brother saw it one way and your sister saw it another way. And I really appreciated that. Memoirs, of course, are always supposed to be like that. But there's something in the clarification of this is my journey through my memory, and it's not perfect. Yeah. Business basics here. You refer to yourself as a third culture kid. I consider myself a fairly smart lady, but I'd never heard that term before. Can you tell folks what that means?
Yeah. I'll probably get the definition slightly wrong.
It's okay. What does it mean to you, Katherine?
So it means for kids who grew up in a culture that is not their own and is not their parents. So for me, for example, my parents are American, I'm an American, but I grew up in Japan. Now, I did not become Japanese, but I didn't really feel like an American either because I'd never lived there. I didn't know any of the pop culture. And so what kids like that do is they create this sort of third culture. And it's like this hovering in-between world. And so they often feel most comfortable with other people who don't quite fit anywhere else either.
It makes sense. Is that a culture, not a culture, but a community that you're still active in? Do you still engage a lot with third culture kids?
Not really. I should. They're amazing people, but I'm not really.
Should. What do we do with shoulds? We get rid of them. That's silly. So I've actually interviewed a number of people who have gone through religious journey, religious trauma, if you will. And one thing that a lot of them have in common is this sort of unwelcoming, unloving family that they grew up in. And I find it so fascinating. That is not your story. From what I read, from my perspective, it is perhaps maybe what you had in your mind, but in reality, your family was not unsupportive and unloving. Do I have that right?
My family are amazing. My parents, I say in the acknowledgments that I think that they are the heroes of this story, and I truly mean that. They are such sincere, earnest, loving people of integrity and kindness. And so my struggle was never with them as people, although of course we struggled like all parents and children do.
Yeah.
My struggle was with this institution, this belief system, this culture of religion. And the funny thing is, to them, it's not a religion for them. It's just their faith. It's their belief.
Yeah.
It is this thing that is infused in everything they do. It informs how they, are in the world. And they have such big hearts, such beautiful, beautiful hearts. And I was so allergic to every part of this world that they loved so much.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. So I grew up, what we called them a creaster. Like we would go to church at Christmas and Easter, and we didn't, I know the Lord's Prayer because we said it before family holidays and gatherings, but that's about it. But how much do you think of your allergic is just the way that it landed on you and the way you interpreted? So there are so many scenarios in the book that I'm having a hard time pulling one out. But okay, you went to a school, a kind of a homeschooling pod, and they were very violent in their punishment approach for seemingly really innocuous things. And somehow you knew that was wrong, and you were afraid to tell your parents. And I get the distinct impression your parents would have been pissed if they
My
had
parents
known.
would have been horrified. In fact, they were horrified later when they found out.
Right. And so it landed differently for you than it does for them. Religion.
Yeah.
Like what was being indoctrinated and what was being, I didn't say that word right.
Indoctrinated.
Indoctrinated. I don't know. That's such a fascinating thing to
Well, and
about.
I think that is part of why I wrote this book, is because I was trying to pull apart how is it that people who love each other can still hurt each other so much, both ways, right? How is it that a system that feels so life-giving and life-affirming and loving and wonderful to some people can feel like just death to someone else?
Yeah.
How is it that, kids can grow up in a family and have such different experiences? How is it that people can live in the same house and be inhabiting such different realities?
Yeah. There's so much gift in that, because all of those things are true. And sometimes even just within ourselves.
Yeah.
Feeling conflicting emotions of joy and sadness and all of it. So I mean, I think it's such a gift that you put that out. I love your dad. I'm in love with your dad. The letters from he writes you and your siblings letters from the cats. I'd love for you. Will you share that? Will you share that with listeners?
Yeah. So there was a period in the book where I had sort of blown up my life very dramatically. I had gotten a divorce. I had quit my job. I had left the church. I was drinking a lot and smoking a lot. And I was sort of estranged from my parents at this point. But this is the thing about my parents, is you can't flunk out of my family. And so,
I love that.
But we also we don't always love the intense, earnest, head-on conversation. So my dad would periodically send us emails or letters from our family cat, whose name was Barkley. And it would be like, dear children, there's been no mail recently. The fish are rotten. I'm going to throw away your family inheritance. Love, Barkley. Right? I'm just making them up. They were much funnier.
No, but I love it because it just deflates. I mean, maybe it's full of avoidance, but it deflates whatever fear. I imagine trepidation. Oh, is dad going to be mad? Or am I going to get this haunting email or message that I don't want to read? And it's like, no, he just wants to talk.
And I think that both can be true. I think that there can be an undercurrent of awkwardness or unspoken things or irreconcilable viewpoints or worldviews. And yet there can still be love, and there can still be loyalty, and there can still be care. And I think that humor is this amazing access point that helps us, puncture right through all of that stuff.
Absolutely.
And find each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So having gone through the experiences that you've been through and now seeing maybe, and of course we can't change any of it, but maybe how it could have been different if you had felt that you could confide in your parents who loved you fiercely, how has that informed you as a parent?
Oh my God, it terrifies me every minute of every day. Truly, my parents are the most lovely humans, and they're such good parents. Everything I know about good parenting, I learned from my parents. And so if this could happen to them, how do I know? What if my beloved children are going through something horrible and I'll never know, or I won't know for 20 years? It's terrifying and horrifying. And I also think it's just the risk of loving people. They're always going to have their own experience. We don't always have the words or the opportunity or the language to talk about what's happening in us. And I think sometimes things just break, and all we can do is go around mending them.
Wow. I'm going to sit with that. See, she talks like she writes. I'm obsessed with your writing style.
I mean, I wish just nothing would ever break. Like, could we all just wrap everything in cotton wool? Like, I'm a total scaredy cat. One of my words was scared. Maybe I'm jumping ahead, and maybe we're not supposed to talk about this yet.
No,
but
you're okay.
Like,
you're
I'm
fine.
scared of everything all the time. Like, I'm terrified of something happening to my kids. I'm scared to call the nice ladies in the school office, even though they're so kind. I'm scared to call the bank. I'm scared of filing my taxes. I'm like afraid of bugs and the dark and ghosts. Like, everything, the adulting feels so scary to me.
Okay, so this, yes, you did not skip ahead. There's no particular order. It's fine. But I have a question that's way down on my list. But because you've said that, now I'm gonna go here, right? So brave is my business. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite passages from your book speaks directly to that. And it would it be all right with you if I read it?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So we're scared, right? But we do it anyway. So here's what you wrote that I've read it over and over and over again. But instead of recoiling from fear, I can feel my own tender arms wrap around my heart. I know, honey. I know you're scared. It's okay for you to be scared because you have lots of practice being brave. And in that moment, I can make space for my fear, even treat it gently, because I am so much more than the fear.
That's the thing about people who are scared a lot, is you get a lot of practice at being brave.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's so resilient. And they don't think they are ever brave. People who are afraid a lot think that they live in that fear. And yet you still do it. You still call the nice ladies at the school. You still file your taxes. You still leave your house. And that's the definition of brave.
Yeah. I see people who talk about being fearless, and I'm like, oh, I don't understand that at all. I'm like afraid of everything all the time.
I literally have an entire speech called Fuck Fearless, and it's the title of my book that's about to come out.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, well, thank you. Because I agree with you. Fearless is, first of all, it just doesn't exist, but it's for sociopaths and 3-year-olds, right? Like, we're scared. We feel fear. You describe in the book just sort of a knowing, an awareness of, I don't know, presence. The nature speaks to you, the trees. You feel energy of people who aren't there. It was beautifully written and described. Can you speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, I didn't have words for any of that when I was a kid. Now I would say, oh, I'm an empath. I'm someone who really feels other people's feelings, whether I want to or not. Right. And I've done a lot of work with that so that I have some boundaries. I have some skin. And I mean, I'm a mystic. Like, I feel like this world is humming with energy. And it doesn't mean that I'm like always tuned into it, but I do always feel that it's there, that I am the one who gets disconnected.
Is it ever overwhelming? Is it too much? Or is it always just right there where you need it?
I mean, I find life very overwhelming. Like, everything is overwhelming.
I mean, when you are as empathetic and sensitive, highly sensitive as you are, I could see that.
Plus, I have 5 kids and like a bazillion chickens. You probably can hear my roosters actually crowing in the background.
One of my questions is, do you love the chickens as much as Nick loves the chickens? Nick loves the chickens.
No, I love our chickens, but no, I do not love them. I wanted to have like a dozen chickens, like maybe 10, maybe 12 if we were going to go real crazy. Sorry, I'm trying not to say crazy anymore. Maybe like 12 if we were going to, be real wild. And we have like 50 or 60 or something, just absolutely absurd.
Babies last weekend. Can you tell? Like, I clearly follow your beautiful family on IG, which Nick does, Instagram, which Nick does really, really well. In fact, I messaged him the other day because my neighbor and I are getting chickens together. I was like, Nick, we're getting chickens and I don't know what to do.
Oh, they're so fun. They're so fun.
They are fun. So I'm sorry, we totally got off track because you mentioned the chickens, and I was like, I was going to ask.
Everybody loves the chickens. They're pretty fun. I actually am watching them right now. I'm sitting up in my room, which is also my office, and I'm looking out, and I can see them like wandering around our property.
Your property is amazing. Okay, well, let's just play with that for a second. This is not related to the book, but you all left a major city and moved sight unseen to a house in the middle of nowhere.
We did.
It's been a big adjustment, right?
It's been like the last few years, I feel like I've just been like riding the waves and just one thing at a time. And so, you know, at the end of my book, at the end of Holy Heathen, I am this like happy solo mom with me and my one daughter. You know, life is dreamy. And then I fall in love, right? And I move to Canada, and I go from being like a Portland, Oregon kind of city girl to the prairie suburbs. And I go from, you know, being a single mom of one kid to a married mom of 5 kids. And I go from like walking from all the hipster coffee shops to the hipster artisanal bakeries to driving my minivan to Costco. So like it was a big shift.
It is a really big shift. Tell me about that. I mean, I imagine you never anticipated that turn.
Oh my gosh. No.
In your life.
I didn't even believe in true love. I was like, yeah, that's like this gross Hollywood thing. It's not for adults. It's not even a real thing. There's like spirits in the trees and the rocks, duh, of course. But there's no such thing as romantic love. Like, come on, let's be grown-ups here.
Yeah. Well, and if all of you are curious to hear Nick's perspective on that, he does talk about meeting and falling in love with you in the interview that I did with him. And so it's beautiful to hear the other side of that. How has blending your families been? I mean, it's hard, right?
Yeah, it's definitely been an adventure. And yeah, it's been like 74 different adventures, you know? There's like the thread of like, which seems so silly and inconsequential, but like going from living in a small city to living in the suburbs, or like being a parent of 1 kid to being a parent of 5, or, you know, being a single person to being married. But you marble them all together, and then you throw in Nick's gender transition. And it was just a lot of change. And he had some medical things happen, and some of it went well and some of it did not go well. And we ended up making a documentary about some of that. And it was just a lot of upheaval. And one thing is about Alberta, where we moved, or where I moved to, is that it's really beautiful. It's, you know, the mountains, it's incredible, but I could not feel the earth. Like that humming that I talked about, that I could feel everywhere, I couldn't feel it in Alberta. It was like I lost my connection to, I don't know, the energy in everything. And I'm still kind of trying to process that and unpack that. And life just kept happening, and things kept shifting. And we decided, Nick and I, with the agreement and cooperation of the kid's other dad, Nick's ex, that we wanted to move and have a totally different kind of lifestyle. And then it was like COVID was happening, and everything was like, it was just like such a wild, weird season. And so we ended up buying this little house, sight unseen, on this tiny island called Salt Spring Island off the coast of Canada. And here we are with our like million chickens.
It looks beautiful and terrifying to me.
It is both of those things to me too.
Yeah, I mean, you've done amazing stuff. It's been fun to watch you. It's so voyeuristic. Does it creep you out? I think Nick drives the bus on making sure that all of that stuff is public.
He's more of a sharer than I am. I'm actually quite private, which is sort of funny considering that I told all my deepest, darkest secrets in this like really, you know, salacious book. No, it's not salacious, but I'm kidding. But like I have this private Patreon community called Rich Juicy Starry Beauty, and I will like write a poem for them and I'll just like slip it into their inboxes so quietly. That's like my way of like sharing my heart. And my husband's over on Instagram like, let's do a house tour. So
yeah,
kind of
you're a trooper though. I always got that impression that you're like, you kind of just sort of smile and we're like, okay, honey, I love you. So I'm going to do this for you. That's the way. So it's super creepy to be like, and I watched your family do this and I watched your family do that. And I see all that.
No, so but you know, like it's all storytelling, right? Like, like the documentary ended up being mostly about Nick, but I mostly made it. Like, obviously I didn't make it physically, but like I really drove that story. And I was the one who really wanted to tell a story about our family. And so it's interesting. We both push each other in different ways to share different pieces of our lives.
I love that. And you both have such wonderful, strong things to share that connect and touch the hearts of other people. I mean, all of your story that you share in your book is, I think, so important, and there are so many people who need to hear it and see it and feel it so that they can do their own healing and their own growing. And Nick's story and your story with Nick and blended families and transitioning and all of that is so important. What would we be in the world if we didn't have people brave enough to share their stories so that the rest of us don't feel alone?
I mean, I love stories. The stories are my lifeblood. And so it makes sense that I want to tell mine too.
Of course. You seem to have a really good grasp on self-compassion. It's actually an area that I've been doing a lot of work and growth in. I love Kristen Neff's work. It's hard. And you didn't seem to always be great at it. Like, what cracked open for you so that self-compassion was something that you could more readily tap into?
Good question. I think what cracked was that I cracked. And I'm thinking of that moment when I was in my early 20s. I had married this, good Christian man. We were trying to live this good Christian life. And I was so deeply, deeply in despair that I thought about ending my life all the time. And the gap was so painful between how I thought my life was supposed to work and how it actually felt. And I was convinced that the gap was me.
Yeah.
And if I could just be good, and if I could just love Jesus, and if I could just control myself, I could make it work. And I tried to control myself so hard that I almost broke myself. And I think that was the moment where I was like, Am I gonna end here? Like, is this just gonna be it? I died a failure, or am I gonna walk out of here still feeling like a failure, like a total failure? Like, you may not be able to flunk out of my family, but you could sure as fuck flunk out of my church. And
right. Oh yeah.
Right. And so it felt like the ultimate failure to me. And there was just something in me, some little pip of energy. I would say that it's that humming that's in everything, that life force that was like, nope, we're going to walk out of here. We're going to take you, horrible failure, shameful, scrap of a terrible woman, but we're going to take you out of here and we're going to just see what's next. Like I didn't have any real hope that there would be anything so good on the other side of it. I just knew that I couldn't do that anymore. And you know what? Sometimes that's enough. Like that got me out, and it took me to this wonderfully healing season of like living this kind of bohemian life in Chicago. And I drank a lot of gin and I smoked a lot of cigarettes and I had sex outside of marriage. And like, I did all these bad things, and I started to finally heal. And I went to therapy. That was very important.
That's good.
I started to heal. And I started to, and I mean, it's so funny now. Look at me now. I live on this little green island with my husband and our 5 kids and like a million chickens.
So
I
great.
never, ever, ever could have seen that coming.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not where anyone who doesn't know you today would read the book and imagine you went. That's for sure. And there were some bizarre parallels in our life. Were you born in Indianapolis? I were there.
Born in Indianapolis.
So born in Indianapolis. I was born and raised in Indianapolis. I've never been to Japan. But then you were in Chicago and lived in the same communities that I lived in, quite possibly at the same time.
That's so
I'm
funny.
Thinking, which is really random.
Did you hang out at the Lakeview Lounge?
I did hang out at the Lakeview Lounge.
We probably drank Pabst on like bar stools.
I wasn't a beer person. I will say that. And then you moved to Oak Park, and I live right next door to Oak Park. So it's very random. I've also I don't even think you could say I've been to Canada. I stepped a foot in Niagara Falls. It doesn't even count. I did have to go through the border, but so that was kind of a funny, random, small world. And then the way you describe landing at coaching is that my interpretation is that it found you. And I always say that about myself. Like it came to me. I was surprised and even a little bit hesitant. Share with us how you knew that was where you belonged and how you gonna get over any, or did you ever have any imposter syndrome or any of that in order to be able to do this work that is so powerful and important?
I mean, I definitely had imposter syndrome, but I think I had something that is way worse, which is Snob Syndrome, where I was like, listen, I am smart, I am literary, I am a business consultant, and I would never be caught dabbling in that like embarrassing self-help world stuff. Like just a snob. There's no nice way to say it. But at the same time, like, you know how at every party there's like the people dancing, and sometimes I'm the people dancing, but more often there's like someone in the corner crying. I was always the person sitting with the person crying, and I'd be like, I just really want to go get some more red wine. And they'd be like, and then when I was 17, this is the thing that happened to me. And like, I just was always like, why do people tell me their trauma? Like, I'm not a therapist.
Not a hairdresser.
No, I was like a theater actor. Like, why are you, I don't know. I don't understand. I joke about it that I have "Tell Me Your Secrets" tattooed on my forehead, but that's sort of been my experience my whole life. And I think some of it was because in such a strict culture that I grew up in, like I had this like secret rebel flag that I didn't even know I was flying. I was trying really hard not to fly it, but I think we like could spot each other. And I just think, I don't know, like there's just something about me. People want to tell me their stories and I want to hear them. Yeah. And the thing for me with coaching was there's so much about the self-help industry that feels so slimy and icky to me. And this is still true, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it is definitely.
And yet, like, there is just this alchemy that happens, you know, like I learned tools, I equipped myself, and I learned that my instinct as an empath, when someone told me their pain or told me their story, was to enter into it. Like, oh, you feel sad? I will feel sad with you. I will soak up all your pain. I was like a dirty bar sponge, just soak it all up.
That's not sustainable.
No, it wasn't. But I didn't know that at the time, right? Yeah. And so the gift for me of becoming a coach was learning how to hold a space for someone where they could tell a story, or they could enter into something that felt really intense for them, and I could sit with them, but not go into it with them. And of course, that's infinitely more helpful.
Of course it is. Yes, of course it is. I love that. I think it's beautiful. How do you find clients? How do they find you? Because you're such a unique, I know a lot of coaches, and some of them are amazing, and some of them are like ones that you've described in that sort of icky, toxic positivity, faux culture. How do you connect with your people?
So the lifeline for my work has always been my weekly missive. So I send it out every Saturday morning. It's gone out for years and years and years. And it's just, it's a story, or it's something I'm thinking about, or it's just something that I think might be useful. And often, like, I sort of confound most marketing advice. You're not supposed to do it this way. It's not supposed to work this way. But mostly people will like get on my email list, and then one day they'll write me and they'll be like, I've been reading your emails for 7 years. You've never heard from me before. I've never taken any of your classes. I'd really like to hire you as my coach. And I'm like, okay, let's get on the phone and talk. Like,
yeah, I can see that. I am a new subscriber to your newsletter because I was like, I want to bathe in your writing. I sound like such a drama queen or such a freak show. I described it to, well, my friend Jennifer, who has been getting your newsletter, and then also another good friend of mine who's currently has my copy of your book. And I said, reading the way that Katherine North writes for me is like finding the sunspot in my house. It's like the way it feels to hear music or poetry. It's like, yeah, I felt it so viscerally.
Oh,
that it was almost weird.
Happy. That makes me so happy. Well, all I've ever wanted to be was a writer, and I love coaching, and it's how I support my family, and I'm so grateful. It's profound, profound work, but also like, I want to keep writing my whole life. And actually, it's interesting right now. What's coming through is not the second chapter of the memoir of how Nick and I met and fell in love, even though I think someday we'll probably write that book.
Oh, please do.
Right now I've got like all these just like poems that are coming through, and I've never really been a poet. I've never thought of myself as a poet. And I'm going to do a shout out for my community, Rich, Juicy, Starry Beauty, which is on Patreon, because it's this amazing space for a creator where I can try stuff out with them. I can be like, okay, here's like a really shitty first draft of this. But I'm going to share it with you. And it is this amazing form of connecting.
I love that. You do talk about being in college and telling one of your professors that you want to be a writer. And she was like, don't do that.
Yeah.
How much did that fuck with you? Because that sucks.
Well, and then she died. It was so sad. It was so sad.
It's really sad. It is.
I'll be honest, I am still trying to figure out, like, I felt like the universe was like, write this book, write this book, write this book. I felt this like urging. And then when I couldn't find an agent and I couldn't get it published, I was so confused. Like, well, I don't understand. It's like you led me down this path and then it was just a dead end. What am I supposed to do?
And you ended up, though, rallying your community, your Patreon community, to get the financial support and all the other support.
Yeah, they helped me publish this book.
So for anybody out there listening, first of all, you can self-publish, y'all. Like, do your thing. But do you have any tips or tricks or suggestions for folks who might be in a similar situation?
That thing that you think is killing you from the inside and you wonder if it will just be easier if you can get it out, it will. Like I spent years,
yeah.
You know, like I was like walking around and like in labor, like I was pregnant with this book for so long. And it was like the baby was like hanging out halfway between my legs. And I'm like, it's fine. Everything's fine. Like, oh my God, just push the baby out. Like get that book or whatever, screenplay or song or podcast or whatever. Like you got to get it outside of you. And like I feel this immense sense of like peace, like, okay, I did the thing. And I know new things will come and I'll be writing forever probably and making stuff forever. But there is this huge, there was like this sharp thing inside me all the time. And it's not there anymore.
That's the best testimonial. And I'll use that word tongue in cheek, but that's like the best testimonial for anything, for doing the hard thing, for showing up and being brave is, when you do it, the monsters go away a little bit. They might come back, but they go away a little bit. Oh my goodness. I love it. I don't ever want to stop talking to you. I just want you to be my best friend, Katherine.
Deal.
Oh, yay.
I'm in.
I love that. One of the things that you talk about, and I can really relate to in the book, is that your family is big on celebration. And mine was always the same, and I do the same with my kids. And just so happens that I ask every guest on the Brave Files how they like to celebrate. And I'm so curious to hear for you from all of the things, from big things, from notable family things to just moments in your day that feel like a win. How do you like to celebrate?
Like, are we talking holidays or just anything?
Specifically, when I ask that question, I'm just talking about your moments, your wins, those personal things. But you can answer it however you want.
So I have a very mean voice in my head that is always postponing the celebration part. It's always like, you know, well, you did that. That's fine. But you didn't do this other thing. Well, you probably could have done it better. And I'm saying that because I know I'm not the only person who has that voice in her head. And I've done a ton of work about with this voice. And actually, one of my huge breakthroughs became this program I teach called the Queen Sweep, which is all about clearing clutter and like doing adulting stuff, but also bringing in beauty and like nourishing ourselves with beauty and bliss and celebration. And the energy of celebration is this thing that I have to learn. I had to learn how to do it, is what I'm trying to say. It didn't come naturally to me. My bent toward like melancholy and anxiety and fear is like intense and strong. But I've learned to counter it with equally immense and intense doses of like love and beauty and tenderness and compassion. And sometimes that is celebration. And so one of the things we do in the Queen Sweep, and I try to bring this into my family, although currently I'm not succeeding, is we do something called we brags. And that's where we brag on something that seems so tiny. Like I finally picked up that sock off the floor that's been there for like 2 weeks.
I love that.
Like I didn't reply to the email, but I opened it and I read it. And then everyone in the group is like, "Woo, you're amazing!" And
I love
it's
that.
powerful. It's weirdly like it shifts things. But I have to work at it.
Yeah, it does take really faithful intention. I interviewed a woman a few weeks ago who has a flag. She made flags for herself and her best friend that say "Yay me," and that it's the same concept, like little bitty things, and they wave their flag and they're like "Yay me." And I loved it so much that I commissioned it to give to all of my clients in the Intentionally Brave Entrepreneurs program. And I'm like, I want you to find a million ways a day to wave your "Yay me" flag.
Yeah, because we think that we're going to like motivate ourselves with that mean voice. It's like a little more, just one more thing.
No. She's an asshole, that voice.
Such an asshole. I know.
Does yours have a name? Do you name her? My clients love to name their limiting voice, like some sort of snarly
there's a
name.
bunch of them.
They're like, "Shut up, Carol. I'm not playing your game today. Sorry if your name is Carol and you're listening. We're not trying to be mean." That is so funny. But that's interesting too, because you did have, and you can tell me if you still do or not, really large holiday family celebrations, and yet finding the things to celebrate in the mundane and in the everyday, I think based on my expert knowledge of you from reading your book, is that it felt shameful to be celebrating things that felt good.
Yeah, I had a conflicted relationship with beauty. I have like such champagne taste. Like I can unerringly walk into a store and there'll be like 74 things in it. And I walk up to this one simple little black thing and I'm like, "Oh, this is pretty." And they're like, "Well, that's from our couture collection. It's $80 million.
You are definitely my cosmic twin, for sure. Yeah.
It's so frustrating. And I felt so conflicted about that. And we didn't have a lot of money growing up. And we were very conscious that there were people who were so much, that we were really lucky and well off because we had food to eat and there were no soldiers at our door. And like, I just felt so guilty because I had this craven hunger in me for beautiful things. And it's taken a long time, but I've learned to honor that part of myself that like, it felt like a craven hunger, but only because I was so hungry, like only because I was so starving. Right. Yeah. And so while I do have mean voices in my head that tell me I should work harder and I've never done it and it's never good enough, I also have this part of myself who has learned to like, be like, whatever, shut up. I'm putting on beautiful music and I am putting on a silk dress and I'm going to walk around putting flowers all over my house. And one of the things that I do with my clients is we work with something called the banquet table. And it's just a simple, gentle form of parts work, right? Where you imagine all the different aspects of yourself coming together at this big banquet table. And it's like you get to call like a high council. And so you've got your like warrior self and you've got like your wise crone self and you've got your beautiful, the self with the silk flower or the silk dress and the flowers, and then but you've also got like the scared little girl and you've got the bitch and you've got all these different aspects of yourself. And I think what has been so healing for me and will probably continue to be my work for the rest of my lifetime is getting all of these parts to talk to each other and work together and have each other's backs.
Yeah, to honor each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's really lovely. That's a really lovely visual interpretation of honoring all the parts of yourself. You recently went on a solo retreat. I'm a big fan of the solo retreat. I have 4 kids. My partner has 1. He's not with us all the time, but I go quarterly for usually about 5 days because my kids are with their other parent. And it's the only thing that gets like my full life source right now.
Yeah.
And I know that you and Nick are doing that. You're taking turns doing that, which is, I think, such an important thing to do to support one another. But you did something that was so notable to me, and it probably wasn't even, well, I don't know. I'm very curious. You took your favorite coffee mug with you.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's a form of celebration. Like, this thing makes me happy and it's going with me. Was there thoughtful intention behind that? Or you're just like, well, yeah, of course I'm taking my coffee mug.
I think that is that part of me that I talked about, that I had to be allowed to grow up and be cultivated, who loves beauty and who, it's such a simple thing, but doesn't want to drink her tea out of an ugly hotel tiny mug that like doesn't feel good in her hands. I want that beautiful, luscious, heavy, wonderful piece of beauty.
I loved it so much. It's just it stakes such a claim on, I shall be surrounded by things that bring me joy.
Yeah, why not? Why the hell not?
I'm with that. I am totally with that. Why the hell not? Okay. Well, since we can't talk forever because we all have all of these wonderful lives that we need to be leading, can you share with folks? I have two questions before I ask you about your favorite charitable organization. One is, tell everybody how they can connect with you if they want to get your lovely weekly, you call it a missive, I think, or they want to learn more about you. How can they do that?
Yeah. So I am Declare Dominion across all platforms. So my website is declaredominion.com. I'm Declare Dominion on Instagram, which is probably my favorite place to hang out these days. Same thing on Twitter, Facebook, all that jazz. But come to my website. There's links to my book there. There's links to a podcast I made. You can sign up there for my weekly missive. It's free. You should totally come join my Rich, Juicy, Starry Beauty community. It is like so tender and beautiful and intimate and wonderful and juicy. Yeah.
And everyone, really do yourself a favor and get a copy of Holy Heathen and clear your calendar for, you probably only need one good day, and just get your favorite coffee mug out and buckle up, because it is so spectacular. It is, I don't, like I said, I'm even sick of myself for gushing over your book so much, but I can't help it.
I'm not sick of it at all.
Oh, I appreciate that. All right. And so the other question I have is, if people are anyone listening is still feeling trapped in that, afraid to explore their joy and afraid to do these things that are so hard, what is the first thing that you would recommend they do to sort of crack themselves open?
Take a pen. Take a piece of paper, can be a notebook, but it could just as easily be like the back of a grocery bag, and just start pouring it all out on paper.
Yeah. I love that. All right, Katherine North, what is your favorite charitable organization to support?
I love the organization Together Rising, which was started by Glennon Doyle. And I believe that Cheryl Strayed and Elizabeth Gilbert are involved in it too somehow. And they are this really nimble organization that is they're always on the watch. So they were really helpful helping refugee kids who were separated from their parents. Last year, a couple of years ago, right now they're sending help down to Texas. They're this small organization, but they've raised a ton of money. And I love them because they focus on small donations from real people. So most gifts are like $25. And I love the metaphor of that, because Glennon's whole thing is that together we can make a huge difference. And she has proved her hypothesis.
I love that. So they will be our charity of the week. And listeners, I ask you always, every week, to whatever you have, if all you have is to get to know them and like and share their social media, do that, whatever you can do to support, because I really believe in the power of coming together. I do believe that together we rise. And funny side note for anybody who doesn't know this, I had a whole Twitter exchange with Glennon Doyle a few weeks ago that started as a argument and ended in a love fest. If you're curious, you're going to have to go and check it
Ooh.
out. But it was one of those, it was a very scary situation for me.
Oh, I want to hear so much more about that.
I adore her, but I disagreed with something that she said, and I disagreed with it publicly, and it made Glennon mad. She did not like that. And when she got mad via Twitter, I really just wanted to like throw my phone across the room and crawl under my covers and delete and hide. And I was like, no, fuck that. Like, she's not the only one that can be vulnerable and do scary things. And I said that. I was like, you're not the only one that can be vulnerable and do hard things, Glennon. I can disagree with you if I want to. And she was like, I like you. I think you're brave. And if you were my neighbor, I would peep out the window and wave at you. And here's a picture of me and Abby. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my goodness. I have to go find that now.
It is pretty wild. And the funny part, my partner was like, well, we need to send a picture back. And I was like, I'm going to leave Glennon Doyle alone now. She was like, no, but what if she thinks you're straight? I'm like, who cares? Anyway.
So what did you do?
Funny.
Did you send one back?
I did not send a picture back because I didn't really need to prove anything to anybody. We did exchange, and I am gonna ask her to be on the podcast to talk about the thing that we were talking about, which was gratitude. And it turned out we were actually saying the same thing and in different ways. That gratitude is life-changing, but forced gratitude, the kind of gratitude that you grew up with, really, the kind of gratitude where you do things because you're supposed to do them, and damn it, you're going to be happy about it and be grateful, is very unhealthy. And also that women can have a disagreement on Twitter and work their shit out without it being a big fucking deal. So I don't know if she'll say yes or not, but I am going to ask.
Love it.
Because what do I have to lose?
What do you have to lose? Yeah. Why the hell not?
I have to lose? I know. Katherine, this has been such a treat. Thank you so much for spending some time with me and my listeners and for sharing all of your gifts with us. We're so lucky.
What a treat to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm supposed to ask you your 3 words. I got so wrapped up. I'm supposed to ask you to share your 3 words one last time.
Oh, okay. All right. My 3 words are mystic, scared, and stubborn.
Yep. I love them. I love them. I love you.
I'm like, it's hard to just say them and not be like, but let me explain.
Well,
I love it.
I ask for folks to repeat their 3 words because if it didn't get clearly communicated in the interview, then I do want to discuss it. But I just think your 3 words, you know you and you know yourself and your story, and those 3 words so beautifully sum up. I mean, you couldn't have done all of the things that you've done and still be this wonderful gift to the world if you weren't stubborn as hell. Because you would quit. You'd be done. You would have given into that voice all those years ago.
Yep.
So I love it.
That's the secret.
So much.
Just don't quit.
Just don't quit. And there's your sign that you're brave and resilient, is you just keep showing up. I love that. Well, I hope that connects with all of you out there. I hope you've had a lot of fun. Go grab your copy of Holy Heathen. If you enjoy this and you enjoy conversations with people who are trying to live out loud, live bravely, with their fear tucked in their pocket, come hang out with us in the Brave on Purpose Collective. It's housed in Facebook. All you have to do is go into Facebook and search Brave on Purpose. It's free. We would love to have you there. It is such a treat to be part of your journey. So this is Heather Vickery reminding you today and every day to go out and choose bravely. Hey friends, I want to share something really exciting with you. We already know you enjoy listening to podcasts because you're listening to this one, but I'm also betting you enjoy audiobooks. And hey, listen, if you don't already enjoy audiobooks, then it's time to check them out. That's why I'm really excited to share Libro.fm with you. They are an incredible new platform for listening to audiobooks. And by choosing Libro.fm over other audiobook services, you are supporting a local bookstore of your choice and investing in your local community. Libro.fm offers over 150,000 audiobooks via their primary platform, which, by the way, they built with love and from scratch because they're a small business also. They even offer bookseller recommendations for great audiobook options. You can sign up right now via www.vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. That's vickeryandco.com/LIBROFM. And when you do, you'll get one free audiobook of your choice, and the proceeds will go to your favorite local bookstore. Now, check what I just said there. You're going to get a free book, and the proceeds are still going to go to your local bookstore because Libro.fm makes sure that their booksellers get paid even when they give a promo to customers. I've listened to over 20 audiobooks this year alone. I especially love listening to memoirs read by the author, and it feels great knowing that all of my purchases support my local bookstore, The Book Table, in Oak Park, Illinois. Libro.fm. The same audiobooks, the same price, but a completely different story. Check them out right now at vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Maybe you've had this thought and then quickly shut it down because who has the time? Or you don't know how, or gosh, it just all seems too hard. If you have something to share with the world, we want to encourage you to get your message out. The world needs to hear it. Did you know that 50% of all homes are podcast fans? If you've ever wondered about having your own podcast or how it can increase your business or get your message across, then please join me and the other experts from the Podcast Power Academy for our monthly free Q&A session. It's called So You Want to Start a Podcast? This casual live conversation will help you understand how podcasting can be a great decision, why now is the best time to get started, and how to get into action with it. Visit podcastpoweracademy.com to learn more. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories of people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes and full episode transcripts, or to get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we would love to know what you think of the show. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching. Coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music was created and produced in a custom collaboration with Matt Lewis from ML Creative Consulting, a boutique firm dedicated to helping clients identify their unique sound and amplify their brand with custom delivered soundtracks. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to everyone on Team Brave, from our producers, associate producers, copy editors, writers, and support team. Special thanks to Molly, Mary, Kim, Sabra, and Sabrina. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.